Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The twin suns of Clyros blazed in the sky, two orbs of crimson plasma intertwining, casting streaks of light like spilled blood across the black stone desert beyond the narrow window of the transparent alloy cage. Leon Korsakov sat motionless, his rugged hands clasped around his knees, his piercing blue eyes fixed on a small crack in the floor where the light of the twin suns filtered through, forming a flickering glow like a dying flame. 30 days had passed since his exploration vessel was ambushed, 30 days of captivity under the Vorin, a race of biomechanical beings with gleaming metallic bodies and minds as cold as circuitry. The wound on his shoulder still burned, a remnant of a plasma bolt from the final battle where he fought to protect his crew before being overwhelmed. The Vorin did not tend to his injuries. To them, blood and flesh were symbols of weakness, a contemptible flaw in their world of metal and energy. Leon marked time by tapping a rhythm on the floor, each beat a silent oath that he would survive, that he would find a way back to Earth, or at least leave a mark that would make the Vorin remember humanity. The steady clang of metal echoed from the dark corridor outside, the footsteps of a Vorin guard. Leon didn't look up, his calloused hand continuing to grind a small shard of metal, something he'd scavenged from the debris in the corner of his cage. It was just a jagged fragment, hardly a weapon, but with enough patience, it could become a knife, a spear, or whatever he needed to face his fate. His grinding was slow, almost meditative, each scrape a breath, a way to keep his mind sharp amidst hunger, thirst, and the pain of his unhealed wound. Memories of Earth flashed through his mind, the lush green forests of the Alps, the laughter of his crew in the training barracks, and the gaze of his commander before ordering him to lead the mission to Clyros. "We're not just explorers, Leon," he had said. "We're the guiding flame for humanity." Those words now cut like a blade, both a spur and a reminder of all he had lost. A cold, electronic voice interrupted his thoughts. "Human, do you still cling to such futile actions?" Leon paused his grinding but didn't look up. The speaker was Clythra, a high-ranking Vorin commander, her slender form radiating a sharp metallic sheen, as if forged from the shattered stars above Clyros. Her eyes, two glowing red points like energy cores, pierced through the cage, as if dissecting every cell in his body. She stood motionless, yet her presence made the air in the cage heavier, as if her power could crush any notion of hope. "Do you think that scrap of metal will save you from the crucible?" Clythra asked, her voice tinged with an unusual curiosity, as if she wasn't entirely certain of the answer. Leon smirked, his voice hoarse from dehydration. "Just passing the time." Both knew it was a lie, a small defiance in the mental game between captor and captive. Clythra stepped closer, her metallic boots clicking on the floor, each step a countdown to Leon's fate. She tapped the cage lightly, the sound ringing like a bell, sharp and cold, making him instinctively tighten his grip on the metal shard. "The crucible is no game, human," she said, her voice even but laced with a warning. "No one survives it, be they Vorin or organic like you. Those who enter leave only ashes." Leon finally looked up, his blue eyes meeting her red glow. He saw no fear in Clythra's gaze, but something else, a flicker of doubt, or perhaps curiosity about this strange creature who kept grinding a piece of metal despite the looming certainty of death. "Ashes can still tell a story," he replied, his voice low but resolute. "And I'm not done telling mine." Clythra tilted her head, as if processing his words through a complex algorithm. A moment of silence stretched, broken only by the faint hiss of the cage's ventilation system. Then she spoke, her tone almost mocking. "You remind me of the Vorin exiles, dreamers of freedom, only to be crushed by reality." She paused, her red eyes flickering briefly, as if a stray thought had crossed her circuits. "Tomorrow, the crucible will give you your answer." She turned away, her metallic footsteps echoing into the distance, leaving Leon in the darkness, with only the flickering light from the floor's crack for company. He resumed grinding the metal shard, his movements slow but relentless. Each scrape was a reminder. He wasn't just fighting the crucible, but the despair lurking in his mind. Memories of the final battle on the exploration vessel flooded back, the roar of engines, the screams of his crew, and the moment he was dragged from the wreckage, blood-soaked but still reaching for a fallen comrade. He had survived that hell, and he would survive Clyros. The shard in his hand now had a clearer shape, a crude but sharp blade. It wasn't a weapon for killing, but a symbol of will, of the flame he carried from Earth. The guard's footsteps returned, heavier this time, accompanied by the hiss of an electronic device. A metal door opened somewhere in the corridor, and a deeper, harsher voice rang out. "Prepare the prisoner! The council wants him ready before dawn." Leon stopped grinding, gripping the blade tightly. He didn't know what the crucible was, but memories of battles on Earth, moments when he faced death and still rose, reminded him that humanity never surrendered. In the darkness of the cage, he whispered, as if swearing an oath to himself. "Just one chance." The crucible loomed like a metallic nightmare, a colossal maze of towering steel walls glinting under the harsh light of Clyros' twin suns, spewing crimson plasma flames and launching energy darts sharp as razors. Leon Korsakov stood at its center, his feet steady on the searing alloy floor, clutching a makeshift spear, a shard of metal he'd ground for 30 days, bound to a broken alloy rod scavenged from his cage. The weapon looked pitiful against the grandeur of the crucible, but it was all he had. Around him, a crowd of Vorin gathered on suspended observation platforms, their metallic bodies reflecting the sunlight, forming a shimmering sea, as if the entire planet watched him. Their electronic hisses rang out, cold and mocking, aimed at the primitive spear in his hands. Leon ignored them, his blue eyes scanning the maze, memorizing every detail, the slits in the walls, the hum of hidden mechanisms, and the acrid smell of scorched metal in the air. On the highest platform, Clythra stood motionless, her slender form radiating a sharp metallic sheen, her red eyes unblinking, as if analyzing his every heartbeat. He felt her gaze, not hostile, but questioning. Was this human truly worth her attention? A piercing siren tore through the air, and the walls sprang to life, closing in with terrifying speed, forcing Leon to sprint into a narrow corridor. A jet of plasma erupted from the left, so hot it singed his hair. He rolled to dodge, his tattered shirt smoldering, his shoulders slamming into the floor. The crowd hissed, their voices like a metallic storm eager to consume him. Leon rose, his breathing heavy but his mind clear. He observed, noticing the walls didn't move randomly. They followed a cycle, repeating every 10 seconds. Memories of survival training on Earth flooded back, exercises in simulated chaos, where he learned to find patterns in disorder. He counted the rhythm in his head, dodging an energy dart that grazed his ear, then leaping over a flame bursting from the floor. Each step was a dance with death, each decision a gamble with fate. The crowd's mocking hisses faded, replaced by curiosity, as if they wondered what this organic creature could achieve. The corridor led to a wide clearing, the maze's heart, where the floor trembled under the weight of a massive machine. It rose from the shadows, a metallic spider with 8 razor-sharp legs, each twice his height, glowing with blue energy cores. The crowd erupted in excited hisses, craving bloodshed. Leon gripped his spear, his heart pounding but not panicked. The machine charged, a leg stabbing down, cracking the floor. He dove aside, thrusting his spear into its leg, but the metal tip skidded off, leaving only a scratch. The crowd hissed, as if laughing at his futility. Leon retreated, his eyes scanning the machine for weaknesses. He noticed the joints between its legs and body weren't fully armored, exposing fragile conduits. But reaching them meant risking his life. He lured the machine into attacking, circling to make it miss repeatedly. Each stab shook the floor, kicking up clouds of metallic dust. The crowd grew impatient, their hisses turning angry. Clythra, from her platform, tilted her head, her red eyes flickering, as if noting an unexpected variable. Leon waited, his heart like a war drum. As the machine raised a leg, he charged, stabbing his spear precisely into a joint. A crack echoed, the leg snapped off, and glowing blue fluid sprayed out. The machine staggered, the crowd fell silent, stunned. Leon didn't stop. He climbed another leg, using his body's strength to reach the machine's back, where its main energy core blazed. The machine thrashed, trying to throw him off, but he clung on, driving his spear into the core. A small explosion shook the maze, and the machine collapsed, smoke rising from its twisted wreckage. Leon stood, blood dripping from a new cut on his arm, his breathing ragged, his eyes burning like an unquenchable flame. The Vorin crowd was silent, witnessing a human conquer the crucible for the first time. A single hiss broke out, spreading into a wave of astonishment, as if they couldn't believe what they'd seen. Leon looked up at Clithra, his gaze defiant but not arrogant. She tilted her head, her red eyes flickering, as if recalibrating her understanding of humanity. He thought she might speak, but she turned away, her metallic form vanishing behind the platform. Vorin guards rushed in, dragging him from the maze's center through cold corridors back to his cage. The crowd still hissed, but now, a new tone lingered in their voices, not mockery, but reluctant admiration. In the cage's darkness, Leon sat, his spear now chipped but still clutched like a talisman. The cut on his arm bled, but he paid it no mind. He had survived the crucible, but this victory was only the beginning. An electronic voice, cold and lifeless, crackled through the cage's intercom. "Don't grow complacent, human! The crucible has 3 phases. The second will destroy you." The words pierced his chest like a blade, but Leon didn't flinch. He smiled faintly, his eyes still blazing. On Earth, he had learned one truth: every challenge was a chance to prove humanity's unbreakable spirit. 3 days after his first victory, Leon Korsakov was dragged back to the crucible, his body aching from unhealed wounds, but his blue eyes still ablaze with resolve. The maze had transformed, no longer a simple labyrinth of fire-spitting walls, but a living network of steel, shuddering with shockwaves from hidden energy cores within the walls. Each pulse roared through the air, making the scalding alloy floor tremble beneath his feet, forcing him to lean to keep his balance. The Vorin crowd packed the observation platforms, their metallic bodies glinting under the crimson light of Clyro's twin suns, their electronic hisses echoing, filled with excitement and a thirst for his failure. Leon stood at the center, his left hand gripping the chipped spear, his ground metal shard, now dulled but still sharp, his right holding a small device, resembling an energy pistol, tossed to him by a Vorin guard before the maze's gate opened. On the highest platform, Clithra appeared, her slender form radiating a cold metallic sheen, her red eyes unblinking, analyzing his every move. She spoke, her electronic voice cold but tinged with a warning. "It only fires 3 shots. Choose your targets wisely." Leon nodded, his gaze sweeping over her, unsure if this was aid or a cruel jest to deepen his despair. A shrill siren ripped through the air, and the maze came alive, its walls shuddering violently, launching glowing blue plasma orbs that darted unpredictably like predatory beasts. Leon ducked, dodging an orb that grazed his shoulder, the heat searing through his tattered shirt. The crowd hissed, their noise like a metallic tempest. He observed, realizing the orbs were drawn to rapid movement, as if programmed to hunt the panicked. He moved slowly, almost gliding across the floor, each step calculated to avoid the shockwaves that threatened to unbalance him. A larger orb hurtled toward him, its blue glow blinding. Leon raised the pistol, his finger squeezing the trigger, the first shot tearing through the air, shattering the orb in a small explosion, metal fragments raining down. The crowd fell silent for a moment, then erupted in angry hisses, as if refusing to accept he still lived. Leon ignored them, his eyes scanning the maze for a safe path. Memories of Earth's training flooded back, exercises in simulated chaos, where he learned to stay calm as the world collapsed. He whispered to himself, "Slow, Leon. Find the pattern." But the true challenge was only beginning. From the maze's shadows, 3 humanoid combat drones emerged, twice his height, their metallic bodies gleaming with red energy cores in their chests. Each was controlled by an elite foreign warrior via Neuralink, moving with deadly precision. The crowd roared, their hisses threatening to tear the sky. The drones attacked in unison, their energy weapons, swords and plasma whips, slicing through the air, leaving trails of searing light. Leon retreated, dodging a sword strike, the heat burning as it grazed his arm. He raised the pistol, firing his second shot at the nearest drone's leg. The beam hit, shattering the joint, and the drone collapsed with a crash of metal. But the other two cornered him, a plasma whip lashing down, forcing him to roll, his back slamming into a wall. A shockwave from the wall staggered him, but he gritted his teeth and rose. He glanced at the shuddering walls, realizing the shockwaves could be an advantage. As the second drone charged, he leaped onto a wall, using the wave's force to vault over its head, landing behind it. His spear struck hard into the chest's energy core, piercing the thin armor. A small explosion rang out, and the drone collapsed, smoke rising from its wreckage. The crowd fell silent, stunned. Clithra stood from her platform, her red eyes flashing, as if witnessing something beyond her predictions. But the final drone gave him no respite. It charged, its plasma sword raised, so fast Leon barely raised the pistol. He fired the third shot, but the drone's strike shook his arm, the beam missing, scorching a wall. The crowd hissed, sensing defeat. In a moment of desperation, Leon gripped his spear, memories of his fallen crew flooding back, those who died so he could live. He couldn't fail, not now. The drone charged, its sword slashing down. Leon rolled, dodging the strike, then threw his spear with all his remaining strength. To his surprise, the spear lodged precisely in a gap in the drone's neck armor, where energy conduits lay exposed. A spark flared, the drone froze, then collapsed, its chest's red light fading. Leon stood, his breathing ragged, blood dripping from a new wound on his shoulder, but his eyes unwavering. The crowd was silent, then erupted in a wave of astonished hisses, a sound bordering on reverence. Clithra looked down, her red eyes flickering, as if recalibrating her system. Vorin guards rushed in, dragging him from the maze through cold corridors back to his cage. Each step was a struggle, but Leon kept his back straight, refusing to show weakness. In the cage's darkness he sat, his body aching, blood soaking his tattered shirt. He had survived the second phase, but the victory only heightened his vigilance. An electronic voice, sharp and menacing, crackled through the intercom. "The third phase is not mechanical. It is something far older." The words tightened his chest, as if an unseen shadow gripped him. He didn't know what awaited, but a premonition of an unprecedented threat made his heart race. He closed his eyes, images of his crew and Earth's forests flashing through his mind. "Just one more chance," he whispered, ready to face whatever the crucible held. The third phase of the crucible was no longer a metallic maze, but a vast pit, like the abandoned maw of a volcano, its black stone walls etched with glowing, cryptic symbols pulsing like the heartbeat of a living entity. The light from Clyro's twin suns poured down, but the pit's darkness swallowed it, creating a chilling twilight. Leon Korsakov stood at its center, his legs trembling faintly from the exhaustion of the previous trials, but his blue eyes remained sharp, a flame that refused to die. The Vorin crowd packed the suspended platforms around the pit's rim, their metallic bodies glinting in the crimson light, yet their electronic hisses were no longer mocking, they were silent, awaiting a bloody spectacle. A Vorin guard tossed him an energy sword, lighter than his previous weapons, but as Leon gripped it, he sensed its instability. The blade hummed unevenly, as if the energy within was fraying. He tested it, the blade emitting a weak blue glow, and knew it was unreliable. Before the pit's gate opened, Clithra appeared at the edge, her slender form radiating a cold metallic sheen, her red eyes flickering with something unusual. Her electronic voice was lower than usual, almost a whisper. "This is not my trial. This is the Council's will. Be cautious, human." Leon studied her, searching for meaning in her words, but her red gaze revealed nothing more. He nodded, gripping the sword tightly, ready for whatever awaited. The gate opened, and a low, guttural roar echoed from the darkness, shaking the stone floor. An ancient creature emerged, not mechanical like the prior trials, but a colossal biological entity, serpentine, stretching dozens of meters, with hundreds of glowing green tendrils writhing like venomous snakes. Its eyes, two fathomless black voids, sucked in the surrounding light, making Leon feel as if he were being pulled into an abyss. The Vorin whispered, their hisses forming a name. Zerathis. Leon overheard that it was a relic from a time before the Vorin fused with machines, a beast imprisoned to test those who defied the council. Zerathis struck, a tendril lashing down like a whip, cracking the stone floor. Leon leaped aside, his sword slashing hard, severing a tendril. But the green fluid from the wound sprayed out, sizzling the stone and corroding the alloy on his boots. He retreated, realizing the energy sword dimmed, its blue glow fading. Zerathis was absorbing its power. The crowd hissed, sensing his defeat, but Leon didn't panic. His eyes scanned the pit, searching for any clue to survival. Amid the chaos, he noticed the symbols on the walls pulsing in rhythm, as if they were the veins of the pit, linked to Zerathis. An idea sparked, destroying them might weaken the beast. He lured Zerathis into crashing against a wall, dodging another tendril, then slashed his sword into the nearest symbol. A small explosion rang out, the symbol shattered, and Zerathis roared, its massive body writhing in pain. The crowd fell silent, stunned. Leon repeated the tactic, racing around the pit, dodging lashing tendrils, each move pounding his heart. He destroyed a second symbol, but the sword's glow was now faint, nearly useless. Memories of his crew on the exploration vessel flooded back, those who trusted him, those he couldn't save, and he clenched his jaw, refusing to fail. He charged for the third symbol, but a tendril, swift as lightning, wrapped around his leg, yanking him into the air. The crowd erupted in hisses, eager for his death. Leon struggled, feeling his bones creak, but his eyes locked onto the final symbol on the opposite wall. With his last strength, Leon hurled the sword, the blade spinning through the air, its blue glow flaring one last time before striking the symbol. A deafening explosion echoed, the symbol crumbled, and Zerathis screamed, its colossal body convulsing, then dissolving into black dust, as if it had never existed. Leon crashed to the stone floor, his breathing ragged, blood streaming from wounds on his arms and chest, his body so drained he could barely stand. The crowd was silent, then a single hiss broke out, swelling into a wave of awe, as if they'd witnessed the impossible. Leon looked up, his vision blurred with pain, but he saw Clithra on the platform. She stood there, her red eyes flickering, as if processing a glitch in her system. He thought she might speak, but she only tilted her head, her red gaze hinting at a fleeting spark of respect. Vorin guards rushed in, dragging him from the pit through cold corridors back to his cage. Each step was agony, but Leon kept his back straight, refusing to show weakness. In the cage's darkness, he collapsed, his body aching, blood soaking his tattered shirt. He had survived Zerathis, but the victory only sharpened his caution. An electronic voice, sharp and menacing, crackled through the intercom. The human lives. But the council does not accept. Leon frowned, his heart pounding. A towering metallic figure appeared outside the cage, not Clithra, but another Vorin, larger, with a voice like thunder. He will face Clithra herself in the final trial. The proclamation struck like a blade, tightening his chest. He stared into the darkness, Clithra's image flashing through his mind, not an enemy, but an enigma. He whispered, as if challenging fate. Then come. The circular arena gleamed under the harsh light of Clyro's twin suns, a vast black stone ring with no walls or machines, only Leon Korsakov and Clithra, facing each other like warriors bound by fate. The floor burned, reflecting crimson light, as if bathed in the blood of those who fell before. The Vorin crowd packed the surrounding platforms, their metallic bodies shimmering, their electronic hisses echoing, hungry for bloodshed. Leon stood at one end, his body aching from the crucible's wounds, but his blue eyes unwavering, a flame burning through the darkness. A Vorin guard tossed him a dull, heavy alloy sword, clearly an insult, as if the council ensured his failure. He tested the blade, feeling its imbalance, its edge blunt, but he gripped it tightly, determined to turn this flawed weapon into an advantage. Across from him, Clithra stepped forward, her battle armor gleaming as if forged from shattered stars, wielding a blue energy sword, its light pulsing with each step, like a machine's heartbeat. Her red eyes locked onto him, but her electronic voice, when it spoke, carried an odd tone, almost regretful. "You've exceeded expectations, human. But the Council demands your death. I have no choice." Leon studied her, searching for meaning in her words, then nodded. "Then do what you must," he said, his voice low but firm, a challenge without bravado. The starting siren blared, sharp as a blade cutting the air. Clitha charged, so fast she was nearly a blur of blue light, her energy sword slashing down with the speed and precision of a machine. Leon dodged, the blade grazing his shoulder, leaving a scorch mark on his tattered shirt. The crowd hissed, their noise a metallic storm, urging blood to spill. Leon retreated, not striking back, his eyes tracking Clithra's every move. He noticed a pattern. Her sword's light flickered faintly before each thrust, as if her energy system betrayed her intent. Memories of Earth's training flooded back, lessons in observation, turning an enemy's weakness into opportunity. He let Clithra push him back, feigning exhaustion, his shoulders slumping, his steps stumbling, but each dodge was calculated, each retreat a step toward his moment. The crowd roared, sensing defeat, but Clithra didn't rush. She struck relentlessly, each slash a test, as if probing his limits. "You can't run forever, human," she said, her electronic voice tinged with curiosity, as if wondering why he still stood. Leon waited, his heart pounding, sweat mixing with blood from old wounds. As Clithra raised her sword, its light flickering, he lunged, swift as lightning, driving his blunt alloy sword into a gap in her chest armor where plates met. The blade wasn't sharp, but the force disrupted her energy circuits, making Clithra freeze, her red eyes flickering like a system error. He seized the moment, kicking her leg, toppling her to the stone floor, her energy sword clattering away, its blue light fading. The crowd held its breath, their hisses silenced, as if the entire planet Clyros stood stunned. Leon loomed over Clithra, raising the blunt sword, the twin sun's light glinting off its edge, casting a glow on her face. He could end it. A single strike would satisfy the Council, end this nightmare. But he paused. Memories of his crew, those he couldn't save, flashed through his mind. Killing Clithra wouldn't bring them back, wouldn't prove anything but that he could become as mechanical as the Vorin. He tossed the sword aside, letting it clatter on the stone, the sound echoing in the silence. "I didn't come here to kill you," he said, his voice resounding, not just to Clithra but to the crowd, the Council. Clithra stared, her red eyes flickering, as if grappling with an unsolvable algorithm. The crowd erupted in hisses, a mix of rage and awe, as if Leon's act shattered their every rule. He looked to the high platform, where a massive metallic figure, a Vorin commander above Clithra, stepped forward, its voice like thunder. "The human has violated protocol. He and Clithra will be executed together." The decree struck like a blade, tightening Leon's chest. The crowd hissed, now thrilled at the prospect of blood. Vorin guards charged, their energy weapons flashing, but Clithra sprang up, so swift it stunned Leon. She blocked the guards, her energy sword reigniting, its blue light blazing. "If you want him dead, kill me first," she said, her electronic voice trembling with an inexplicable emotion, as if a deep part of her had awakened. The crowd fell silent, shocked by her defiance. Leon stared at Clithra, his eyes flashing with surprise, but there was no time to think. In the chaos, she grabbed his hand, pulling him toward a side gate at the arena's edge. Guards roared, plasma bolts chasing them, but Clithra dodged, leading him into the darkness of the fortress's corridors, where the sun's light couldn't reach. Leon ran, his heart pounding, unsure if they were racing toward freedom or another death, but for the first time, he felt Clithra was no longer his enemy. Leon Korsakov and Clithra raced through the fortress's dark corridors, the crimson light of Clyros' twin suns reduced to faint streaks through wall slits. The clang of pursuing Vorin patrol boots echoed behind, mingled with the hiss of tracking sensors, like predators in the shadows. Leon ran, his breathing ragged, blood seeping from wounds on his shoulder and arm, but he gritted his teeth, staying close to Clithra. She moved with mechanical precision, dodging laser beams from security sensors, guiding him through narrow turns to a hidden tunnel behind a metal panel. Once used to transport raw energy, The tunnel was thick with dust and the acrid smell of scorched metal, its stifling air making Leon cough, his lungs burning. He wiped sweat from his brow, his blue eyes glancing at Clithra, who pressed forward, her armor glinting in the faint glow of old energy cores on the walls. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, his voice hoarse, his breath labored. Clithra didn't look back, her electronic voice cold but laced with curiosity. "Because you did what my systems couldn't predict. I want to know why." Her answer was a puzzle, making Leon clench his fist, but there was no time to unravel it. The hiss of the patrol grew closer, urging them deeper into the darkness. The tunnel opened to a wasteland, a shattered stone desert stretching under Clyro's sky, where stars broke into fragments, glimmering like falling crystal dust. Strange pillars of light rose from the black sand, pulsing with faint green glows, remnants of a forgotten civilization. Clithra stopped, pointing to a distant shimmer where the faint outline of huts appeared. "That's the exiles' settlement," she said, her voice even. "They might aid us, or destroy us." Leon nodded, a weak smile crossing his lips despite his body's screams of pain. "Better odds than I've had," he replied, his voice tinged with dry humor, masking the fear lurking within. But Clyro's desert was unforgiving. A plasma storm erupted, blue energy bolts tearing the sky like the blades of angry gods. Black sand whipped up, scouring Leon's skin, forcing him to shield his face, his steps faltering. Clithra grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a nearby cave, its black stone wall shielding them from the storm. In the darkness, the storm's roar mixed with the hiss of the Voran patrol, now tracing their path. The cave shook as a plasma bolt struck the wall, its blinding light exposing their position. Leon drew the blunt alloy sword from the arena, ready to fight, but Clithra lunged first, her blue energy sword flashing, severing an enemy's energy rifle. But another bolt hit her chest, toppling her, her armor's light dimming, smoke rising from her main circuits. Leon shouted, dragging her deeper into the cave, dodging a barrage of shots. The patrol, 3 heavily armored Voran warriors, advanced, their weapons glowing. Leon propped Clithra behind a boulder, using his sword to parry a slash, then kicking an enemy's leg, unbalancing it. He grabbed a sharp metal fragment from the cave floor, hurling it precisely into a Voran's armor gap, making it freeze. Clithra, despite her damaged circuits, fired a weak energy pulse from her hand, felling the second. Leon charged the last, driving his sword into its energy core with all his strength, toppling it. The cave fell silent, save for his ragged breaths and the faint hiss of Clithra's systems. Leon knelt beside Clithra, his eyes filled with worry. She lay still, her red eyes flickering, on the verge of fading. He scavenged the patrol's gear, finding a coil of conduits and a small energy core. Memories of technical training on Earth flooded back, long nights repairing spacecraft under pressure. His hands trembling with exhaustion, he opened Clithra's chest plate, revealing a complex web of conduits, some charred black. Each second was a battle, as the hiss of another patrol echoed in the distance. Finally, Clithra's eyes flared to life, and she gasped, as if returning from death. "You saved me," she whispered, her electronic voice tinged with astonishment. Leon smiled faintly. "We're not done yet." In the cave's darkness, Clithra sat up, her red eyes studying him, as if weighing a decision. Then she spoke, her voice lower, almost human. "I am not purely Voran. A part of my biology comes from an ancient species, like Zerathis. The Council seeks to destroy me for it, for being a system error." The revelation struck like a blade, stunning Leon. He saw her not just as a machine, but as a being burdened by her own existence, caught between 2 worlds. "Then we're more alike than I thought," he said, his voice deep. "Both outsiders." Clithra tilted her head, her red eyes flickering, as if his words touched something deep within her. The patrol's hiss grew closer, but Leon stood, helping Clithra up. "Let's go," he said. "The settlement awaits." They stepped from the cave, facing the harsh desert, 2 fugitives now bound by an invisible thread, not friendship, but a profound understanding of each other. The journey through Clyro's desert continued, each step a brutal trial. Leon Korsakov's shoulder and arm wounds oozed blood, every movement making him grit his teeth in pain. Clithra, though temporarily repaired, moved slower, the light from her battle armor flickering faintly, like a flame on the verge of extinction. The shattered stone desert stretched endlessly, its black sand glinting under a sky where shattered stars glimmered like falling crystal dust. Pillars of green light rose from the ground, humming with a low, eerie pulse, as if whispering ancient secrets. Leon wiped sweat from his brow, his blue eyes scanning the horizon for signs of the settlement Clithra had promised. "How much farther?" he asked, his voice hoarse from thirst. Clithra, a few steps ahead, turned, her red eyes flickering. "Not far, but the desert spares no weakness," she replied, her electronic voice carrying a warning. Leon gave a faint smile, masking his pain. "Good. I've never liked things easy." They reached a strange oasis, where glowing trees sprouted from the black sand, their transparent trunks radiating a soft blue light, like lanterns guiding through the dark. The air was cooler, carrying the scent of metal and damp earth. A group of exiled Vorin emerged from the shadows, led by Scylla, a former engineer with a worn, scratched metallic shell marked by burns. His red eyes swept over Leon and Clithra, gleaming with suspicion, but he nodded. "Follow me. The settlement doesn't welcome strangers, but you need rest." Leon sensed tension in Scylla's voice but was too exhausted to question it. They were led to a small hut, where Leon sat, inspecting his wounds, while Clithra stood still, as if analyzing the environment. Night fell, the glow from the trees casting a soft light on Clithra's face, making her seem almost human. Leon watched her, wanting to ask about her ancient biological core, but fatigue pulled him into a fitful sleep. In the darkness, Scylla slipped from the hut, activating a hidden communicator, sending a signal to the Vorin Council, betraying Leon and Clithra's location in exchange for amnesty for himself and his people. But Clithra, through a concealed sensor in her system, detected the signal, her red eyes flaring. She lunged, confronting Scylla in the faint glow of the trees, her energy sword blazing. "You betrayed us," she said, her electronic voice icy. Leon awoke, rushing to the scene, his eyes darting between Clithra and Scylla. Scylla knelt, his voice trembling. "I only wanted to protect my people. The council will forgive us if I hand you over." Leon stepped forward, placing a hand on Clithra's shoulder, stopping her sword. "Killing him solves nothing," he said, his voice low but firm. He looked at Scylla, his blue eyes piercing. "Work with us. If we survive, I swear I'll help your settlement." Scylla looked up, stunned by Leon's compassion, then nodded, his red eyes glinting with remorse. Scylla led them through a secret path, a narrow canyon lined with jagged rocks, to evade the council's hunters. But as they neared the settlement, an elite Vorin squad ambushed them, their energy weapons flashing in the dark. Leon and Clithra fought back to back, their coordination near flawless. Leon parried a plasma bolt with his blunt alloy sword, then hurled a rock into a Vorin's eye, disorienting it. Clithra sliced through another's weapon, her blue energy sword blazing. But the Vorin were too many, forcing them back. Scylla, in a bid for redemption, tackled a warrior, taking a plasma bolt through his chest. They escaped, but Scylla fell, metallic blood pooling from his shell. Before dying, he grasped Leon's hand, whispering, "You were right, compassion is strength." Leon bowed his head, the weight of loss heavy on his shoulders. Clithra watched, her red eyes flickering, as if noting something new. Only the two of them remained, pressing on toward the settlement, its silhouette emerging under the shattered stars, carrying both hope and danger. The exiled settlement lay hidden in a deep valley, surrounded by glowing green stone pillars, like sentinels of a lost world. Huts of scavenged metal sprawled chaotically, faint light from old energy cores flickering in the dark. Leon Korsakov and Clithra entered, their bodies weary but their eyes wary. A group of Vorin greeted them with energy weapons raised, their electronic hisses hostile. Leon raised his hands, signaling peace, but Clithra stepped in front, her damaged armor still glinting. A young Vorin, Elara, emerged, her unusual green eyes, rare for a Vorin, sparkling as she recognized Clithra. You're the commander who spared me in a purge, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Elora turned to the leader, Valthor, an aged Vorin with a dull gray shell, his red eyes full of suspicion. They're not enemies, Elora insisted. Leon stepped forward, his voice steady, echoing through the valley. We bring no war. We bring hope. Clithra gave up everything to save me, and I refused to kill her. Let us prove it. The crowd murmured, a debate erupting, but Elora and a few young Vorins supported them, swaying Valthor to reluctantly nod. Valthor led them to the settlement's heart, where a massive energy reactor loomed, emitting an unstable hum, like a bomb waiting to detonate. He revealed, "This reactor powers us, but it's failing. If it explodes, the valley will be obliterated." Leon studied the reactor, his blue eyes flashing with resolve. "I can fix it," he said, his voice deep. "In return, protect us." Valthor frowned, but Elora nodded, trusting him. Leon worked with Elora and Clithra, his hands navigating complex conduits, memories of Earth's technical training flooding back. He discovered the reactor had been sabotaged, energy cores misaligned, a council plot to destroy the exiles. Time ran short, the reactor trembling violently, red light flaring. Leon, with Clithra's aid, realigned the cores, sweat streaming down his face. Elora passed tools, her eyes gleaming with admiration. As the reactor let out a final hum, the red light faded, stabilizing. Leon collapsed, his breathing ragged, but a faint smile of relief crossed his lips. The Vorin gathered, their hisses now tinged with respect. Valthor approached, his red eyes softened. "You saved us, human," he said, his voice deep. "But the council won't stop. They'll send an army here." Leon stood, his gaze unwavering. "Then we fight," he said, looking at Clithra, who nodded, her red eyes flickering, as if finding a new purpose. Elora grasped Leon's hand, whispering, "I believe in you." The valley glowed under the shattered stars, as if hope had been rekindled, but the shadow of a greater war loomed, waiting. In the darkness of a scrap metal hut, Elora crouched beside an old communicator, its crimson light flickering weakly. She whispered into it, her voice trembling with hope. "Tell those in the fortress, the humans saved us. He refused to kill Clithra, and the reactor is stable because of him." A hiss of static replied, a sign her words had crossed the desert, reaching young Vorin discontented in the council's shadows. Leon, standing outside, his blue eyes tracing the shattered stars, unaware that his story was igniting a fire far away. News of Leon Korsakov's deeds in the crucible and his compassion spread like wildfire through Clyro's desert, kindling unrest in the Vorin fortress. A group of young Vorin, inspired by the human who spared Clithra, rebelled, shaking the council's foundations. But the council retaliated with an elite army, hundreds of metallic warriors glinting under the crimson light of the twin suns, marching toward the hidden valley settlement. Leon stood atop a glowing stone pillar, his blue eyes scanning the terrain, his hand gripping an energy sword taken from a fallen Vorin. Clithra stood beside him, her damaged armor gleaming, her red eyes burning with resolve. "They come to crush us," she said, her electronic voice cold. Leon gave a faint smile. "They'll find crushing humanity isn't so easy." With Elora, Valthor, and the exiles, they turned the valley into a fortress, using glowing pillars as traps, digging pits with buried energy cores for explosions, and setting hidden conduits to disrupt enemy systems. As the Vorin army flooded the valley, the green light of the pillars was eclipsed by plasma, smoke, and dust. Leon and Clithra led the defense, the crowd's hisses mingling with the blasts of energy traps. Leon leaped from a pillar, slicing his energy sword through a Vorin warrior, its blue light flashing. Clithra, swift as lightning, disabled a combat drone, but the army's numbers pushed them toward the valley's heart. Amid the chaos, a colossal figure emerged, Zorath, the council's commander, his metallic body twice Leon's height, a red energy core in his chest glowing with deadly light. "You think compassion will save you?" Zorath mocked, his voice like thunder, his massive plasma sword raised. "It only makes you weak." Leon stood firm, his eyes unwavering. "Compassion makes us stronger than you know," he replied, his voice echoing through the battle's roar. A duel erupted, Zora striking with devastating force, each slash shaking the ground. Leon dodged, using agility to evade, his eyes scanning Zoratha's form for weaknesses. He noticed the chest core was heavily armored, but conduits at the neck were exposed when Zorath raised his sword. Leon lured him into attacking, rolling to dodge a slash, then leaping, driving his energy sword into the neck gap. A spark flared, Zorath roared, but remained standing, slamming Leon to the ground. Blood trickled from Leon's mouth, but he rose, his heart pounding. He charged again, pouring all his strength into a strike at the chest core. A small explosion rang out, and Zorath collapsed, his red light fading. The Vorin army froze, stunned. But as Zorath fell, an electronic hiss emanated from his body, activating a hidden self-destruct device in his core. A red light flared, threatening to obliterate the valley. Leon shouted, calling Clithra. She rushed to it, her hands flying over the device's conduits, but a digital virus from Zorath invaded her system, her red eyes flickering wildly, her body convulsing. "Leon! I'm losing control," she whispered, her electronic voice distorted. Leon, defying the danger, linked directly to Clithra's system through a device scavenged from Zoratha's wreckage, his will like a flame piercing the digital void. In the virtual world, he saw Clithra's memories, a painful past, images of her forced into a warrior's role by the Council, her ancient biological core trapped in metal. The virus appeared as a shadow, devouring light. Leon faced it, shouting, "You're not alone anymore, Clithra!" His will, combined with her resistance, repelled the virus, disabling the device. Clithra regained control, her red eyes clear, and together they rallied the exiles, repelling the remaining Vorin army. As the battle ended, the valley glowed with green light, as if Klyros itself honored their victory. As the plasma smoke cleared, the valley emerged in a gentle green glow, its stone pillars shining like beacons of hope amid the rubble. The exiles, their metallic bodies scarred, quietly tended to each other, their red eyes gleaming with resilience. Leon stood on a rise, dried blood crusting his tattered shirt, his blue eyes sweeping over the ravaged valley, where scrap metal huts still stood defiant. Clithra, beside him, her warped armor glinting, whispered, "We did it, human!" A young Vorin ran up, bearing news from the fortress. The council had fallen, and rebels were calling for reform. Leon clenched his fist, feeling the warmth of an energy crystal in his pocket, a reminder that from ashes, they could rebuild. The settlement became a symbol of hope, its green pillars illuminating the huts like a guiding flame in the dark. Word of the council's collapse reached the fortress, shaking Vorin society. A new council of young Vorin and exiles vowed to reform, dismantling the old brutal laws. Leon stood in the valley's heart, his blue eyes meeting the metallic faces around him, no longer enemies, but companions in a new dream. Elara, her green eyes striking, grasped his hand, whispering, "You gave us a chance to change." Valthor, now a council member, nodded, his red eyes warm with respect. But as the crowd cheered, hailing Leon as a hero, he raised a hand, his voice deep yet resonant. "I'm no hero. I just did what was right." The simple, powerful words silenced the crowd, then sparked a wave of admiring hisses. Clithra, now a council leader, stepped forward, her repaired armor gleaming under the shattered stars. She handed Leon a small energy crystal, etched with Earth's symbol, a blue circle, blended with Klyros' twin suns. "This is not a weapon," she said, her electronic voice soft, almost human. "It's a reminder we can build, not destroy." Leon took the crystal, feeling its weight, not physical, but meaningful. He looked at Clithra, her red eyes now carrying a warmth, as if her ancient biological core had found freedom. He smiled, nodding. "Thank you, Clithra, for everything." A year later, the valley transformed. Glowing gardens sprouted from black sand, transparent trees radiating blue light, symbols of peace and rebirth. The settlement became the heart of a human-Vorin alliance, with Earth's exploration ships arriving, carrying engineers and scientists to learn from Klyros. Leon and Clithra stood on a stone pillar, gazing at the valley, the shattered stars' light bathing them. They were not enemies, nor truly friends, but companions who had reshaped two worlds' fates. Leon reflected on his journey, from cage to crucible, desert to valley, and realized each step was an oath, not just to survive, but to create something better. A radio signal crackled from Leon's device, a familiar Earth frequency. He activated it, hearing a commander's voice. Korsakov, we need you for a new mission. Another planet, a new threat. The signal cut like a blade, pulling him back to reality. He looked at the valley, where Elora guided young Vorin, where Valthor oversaw construction. Then he turned to Clithra, her red eyes quietly watching. Will we meet again? He asked, a spark of hope in his voice. Clithra tilted her head, her lips curving into a smile, the first he'd seen, her red eyes glowing with a warmth, as if she'd learned something deeply human from him. Beneath shattered stars, anything is possible, she replied, her voice soft like a promise. Leon gripped the energy crystal, feeling its warmth in his hand. He descended the pillar, the valley's green glow lighting his path. Though a new mission awaited, a part of him would always belong to Clyros, to its harsh desert, its crucible, and to Clithra, who taught him that even in a world of machines, there was room for compassion. As he glanced back one last time, the valley blazed under the stars, a guiding flame for the future.